We are live
We
and
are
on the
live.
air.
So obviously we're on my YouTube channel right now, but this is Storm Chaser Logan Eschrich, very good
Hi,
friend of mine,
everybody.
really good friend of mine for many, many, many years. One of the best storm chasers in the entire state. Take my word for it. And
No.
we'll let you tell where you're from and all that good stuff real quick. Go ahead.
Well, my name, like he said, I am Storm Chaser Logan Eschrich. I'm from the Bradford, Pennsylvania area. If you don't know where Bradford is, it's about an hour and a half due east of Erie, Pennsylvania, right on the New York State border. I live literally right down the road from the Kinzu Viaduct that tragically got struck by a tornado in 2003. So,
Yes, it did. It really did. It's completely on the ground, pretty much, basically.
yeah, most of it. So they were doing construction on the bridge in 2003 on the anchor bolts that hold the bridge down on the support limestone supports that were built in God knows when. And the portions that actually fell down are the portions that they did not restore at the time because they were making their way down the valley. And what happened is, like, they restored a portion of it, but the middle sections were not structurally sound. They were rusted out.
Yeah.
So they weren't touched. So sadly, the tornado came in like the worst possible time. They think that the bridge would have stayed up if they would have finished their restoration. The project was actually 5 months behind the schedule. So it's kind of like, darn it, like if it was on schedule, it would have been fine.
See, I feel like it sucks the tornado hit the bridge, but at the same time, it's iconic now because of what happened there.
Correct.
Obviously, it's a part of history either way, but I remember seeing a documentary about how they were in the process of upgrading those bolts you were talking about, the anchor screws, whatever it was, when the tornado happened. It just so happened that they weren't quick enough.
Yep. Nope, not quick enough. They almost had it.
What was the rating on that? I don't even remember.
I believe it was the EF1.
And what year was that again?
2003.
2003. I know it's been a while. I
was not old.
I saw the local storm report come through, and I was like, "What? Knocked a bridge down in Pennsylvania? What kind of tornado are we talking about here?" I'm thinking.
Yeah, I believe it was an EF1. Honestly, I do believe that.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy stuff, though. Like being so close. I mean, I personally remember it even as a kid. Like I was only 4 at the time, 4 or 5, and I was like, holy crap, like we're down in the basement, we got a mattress over us, like old rickety washing machine next to us.
Oh, so you remember the night it happened?
Oh, I remember it was really like it was in the evening, kind of nighttime hours.
Yeah.
There's one video of the storm system moving through at a particle board plant right down the road from here. It's called Georgia Pacific.
All right.
And it's a GP plant, as we call it. There's a video on YouTube. If you just look up Kinzu Bridge tornado, honestly, it's like the second video that pulls up. It's pretty crazy to watch. I mean, you can't see nothing. Like, you don't see a tornado or anything because it came in the other side of town, but like down through the valley.
Would you say that was one of your defining moments as a storm chaser, like heading on that path?
As a kid, probably
sticks out. You're like, this is what made me. You know.
Yeah, I do believe that's what brought me into the interest of storm chasing, like I have now.
It wasn't the
like I said,
Twister, you know.
Yeah, or the movie Twister. That's
the number one question I get. They're like, "Oh, like the movie Twister." I'm like,
I still got the VCR tape.
You know? I'll just agree because everybody knows that movie. I'll just agree. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's that Twister movie, right? Yeah.
Oh my
God.
No,
definitely. That was. I mean, I was real young at the time, so like, it's vague memory. It's not like, oh, I remember like we were outside. Like, no, like it was real vague. But I do remember going in the basement because we have a real distinct like fire siren here in town that the fire department uses.
Yeah.
But it's the same siren as tornado sirens.
Wow. So how soon
we were confused
to go and see it?
Yeah, we were confused. I went 2 days after it occurred, and by then they already had like the construction fence back up, blocking the bridge and all that. So,
wow. Hey, Mike, how's it going,
Mr. Mike Nestor has joined.
Can you see the comments, Logan?
Yeah.
Never done this before, so I'm like not sure how it works with
But
another
this
person.
is new to me too.
This is pretty cool so far, though. I wonder how
Yeah,
many people you could get on here. Actually, it would be cool.
it was not an EF1. It was an F1 at the time. They did not have the EF scale yet.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So it was at 3:00 actually. So
Wow.
just about the time that I was getting home from school.
So was that a tourist attraction before that actually happened?
Oh yeah, it was a big tourist attraction. The bridge was built. Oh man, I don't even know what year. Way back.
Do you imagine if that would happen more modern times and everyone has a cell phone now?
Oh yeah, it
I
definitely would have been filmed.
that would have
Even
been
the
pretty fun.
cameras.
Yeah.
It was a state park at the time that it got hit.
Yeah. Security cameras. You would think.
Right, but I mean it's a state park. The security cameras from 2003 were not good.
Yeah.
We can all vouch for that.
Yeah.
Black and white, crappy. There was actually a park ranger. They always had one park ranger on duty throughout the night. I don't think they do it anymore. But there was one park ranger, and the place looks completely different than what it did all the way up until I think 2013.
Yeah.
The place, it just was like your normal everyday state park with a little shack for a ranger shed and a little video board that played a video about the bridge, and that's it. And that day the ranger shut the bridge down and all that in the park because there was construction going on, so really nobody
Yeah.
could go out on the bridge
Mm-hmm.
or ride the train across even because they
Yeah.
closed the excursions down. That park ranger actually got stuck in that shed because from a bunch of trees falling down on top of the shed.
Wow.
He's lucky to be alive. He still lives in town. I know the guy very well. But yeah, he
Wow.
was stuck in that shed for a while.
You could
And
totally do a documentary on that if you know that guy very, very
oh
well.
yeah,
Like an
oh yeah,
academic
definitely.
part of Pennsylvania weather history. That would be so cool. Can you
Yep.
imagine
Actually,
being a ranger on duty and having to call your boss and be like, "So, yeah, the bridge just fell down."
yeah. Could you imagine that? He'd probably think you're
Poor
joking
guy.
with him.
Oh my gosh, PTSD from the bridge falling down.
Yeah, that bridge. It's 301 feet high at the center point. It's
Okay.
obviously not that anymore. I think it's at like 292 now
Yeah.
because of the middle section falling down. So
I've never been there, but from the photos I've seen, it looks massive.
yeah, I mean the bridge was built in 1882. It was the largest bridge in the
Wow.
world.
It
It
was like
started off
it's
as
like a
like
wonder
steel
of the
pipe.
world, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it is anymore. Um, Obviously now that it's fallen down, but like before that, I think it was one of the wonders of the world. It started off as like I think steel pipe,
Okay.
and then it turned like they tore it down. They rebuilt it in like 6 months with like
It was a railroad bridge, though, right?
it was a railroad bridge for
Okay.
coal for General Kane.
All right.
General Kane was in this area, hence the name Kane, Pennsylvania, 20 minutes just west of where I live. Like he built it because otherwise he had to go around the entire valley
Mm-hmm.
with the coal trains. But
Yep.
he's like, well, if we just build a viaduct, we can get right across the valley to where we need to
Oh yeah.
be. So
Just go direct. Go direct.
go direct.
All right. So
Yeah.
branching off from the bridge, what would you say was your next leap into heading towards this path of storm chasing?
Oh man, I would have to say the Moore, Oklahoma tornado.
Okay.
I remember coming home from school. I think I was in middle school at the time, middle school or elementary. I can't remember grade wise. Uh, but definitely the Moore, Oklahoma tornado. I remember going back to my grandmother's because I lived with my grandmothers during the school week and came back
Yep.
home on the weekend because the way my parents worked. They had this little tiny box television in the corner of the kitchen. Every day I go watch local on the 8s. And that day that the Moore, Oklahoma tornado happened, as we were coming home from school, it was starting up, cells were popping off in Oklahoma, and then things got real bad. Obviously, a lot of us do know the Moore, Oklahoma tornado. If not, look into it, folks. It's a very interesting situation. Even El Reno. I'll even bring up the El
Yeah.
Reno tornado.
Oof.
That, that hits a lot of us storm chasers Personally, I mean, not that we know the people that were affected personally, but there was storm chasers affected, and that really hurts.
We'll touch on what El Reno is for people who might not know who are watching. El
Yeah.
Reno is a tornado that occurred in El Reno, Oklahoma.
Yep.
It took the lives of many people. I believe 4 storm chasers. I want to say there might actually have been more.
I
Obviously,
believe there was 4.
the Twistex team, they all lost their lives, unfortunately, to the tornado.
The Weather Channel car.
Yeah, to this day, it is the widest tornado on record. Not the strongest, but the widest. So very significant in weather history. And it was a tornado that went completely against what we knew about tornadoes. And
Correct.
the growth of tornadoes. It went absolutely massive in no time. And, generally chasing it's not safe, but if you know what you're doing, you can be pretty safe. And you can kind of stay out of the way and just watch radar. And this went against the odds and just grew in size, completely defying the science that we knew on how fast these things could explode and expand.
And it was rain wrapped to no days.
And it caught a lot of people off guard.
Correct.
Including chasers who were absolutely experienced. You have anything to add on that there, Logan?
I believe it was 2 miles wide, right? Was it a 2 mile wide tornado?
I think it was like 2.3 or 2.8.
It was close to 2 to 2.5. It was in between.
People are going to want to know. Let's see here.
If people want to know how wide it is, get in your cars if you have one, reset your odometer, and drive 2 miles, and that will give you a visualization of how big this tornado truly was.
It was 2.6 miles wide. Absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah.
2.6 miles wide.
That's crazy.
Just imagine that happened in such a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah.
The chasers who were on it, they couldn't even see it coming.
Nope.
They thought it was just rain. They didn't realize that monster in front of them was just the whole thing was a tornado.
Looked like a big rain shaft to them.
It did.
And that's what catches a lot of storm chasers even today. Not even that big of a tornado. A lot of chasers see that as a rain shaft that don't know what they're looking at, which, we're all still learning. We learn about weather every day.
Yep.
Because weird things happen. It's nature. Sometimes things happen we don't even think can happen. I mean, like you said, El Reno caught everybody off guard. Nobody thought it was going to be more than 2.5 miles wide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
But that's one that will stick with chasers. If you say El Reno, every chaser in the room is going to stop and be like,
think about Twister the movie when they say, "Is there an F5?" Well, that's what the whole room turns into right there.
That one was only rated, I think it was a 3 officially.
It was a 3, I believe. Yeah.
But that's going to be one that's going to stick with a lot of people for a long time. But going back to, you said, the Moore, Oklahoma tornado.
The Moore, Oklahoma.
Stuck with you.
Yep, I remember watching it on the little square television in the kitchen at my grandparents' house. I personally can note I remember seeing the semi-trailers getting lofted in the air via the helicopter camera. I remember watching that happen, and I remember them talking about the schools. And just recently, I went out to Oklahoma, and we were actually there on their anniversary day of the tornado happening. So it was really heartfelt because they have a big marathon, a beautiful park where the hospital was, which the hospital was completely destroyed. I mean, those people relied on that hospital. People were rushing to that hospital, and they found out there's no hospital left. So, it's real eerie in that park. It's a good park, don't get me wrong, but you get like the bumps on your arm just thinking like, oh my gosh, there was something here at one point. I mean, it just hits you.
As beautiful as tornadoes are, and we both know they're beautiful if you see them in person, and you can't really appreciate them until you see them when they're in a field and they're not doing any harm.
Okay? Correct.
But we also recognize that these beautiful things that we absolutely love are monsters. And many of them, Oklahoma City, El Reno, they were monsters, and
Cookeville, Tennessee.
Yeah. And you
Cookeville, Tennessee. That, right? I covered that tornado. Yeah. Yep. That was absolutely devastating. I mean, homes were down to nothing but concrete pads. I mean, absolutely devastating. Hit a motel, hit a school. I mean, it's just it really. If you're on site, it's like a punch in the face. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've covered even close to home here. We have a place near Hamburg in Berks County, Pennsylvania. Here, many years ago, there was a school there that got impacted by, I think it was high EF1. They wanted to almost be EF2. Wiped out the whole school, literally the whole school. And I was there right after it happened, walking through the halls. And you could see the lockers were still standing, but the roof was absolutely gone. The
Right.
whole building was toast. The principal, I think, was the only one in the building at the time it happened. And we're talking, this is west of Cabela's, Tilden Township, Pennsylvania.
Right.
This is in the middle of
Definitely.
Oklahoma. This is right here at home. And when you see something like that, it just sticks with you. And you got to remember, tornadoes around here are a lot weaker than what they have out west. Generally, not always.
Generally. Yeah.
So I mean, I can't even imagine when you see all these schools ripped apart out in Oklahoma. Like,
Oh yeah, it's crazy to think about. I
yeah,
mean, things like that can happen in Pennsylvania. You just
yep.
got to have the right, atmospheric conditions. I mean, that's just anything can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at. Well, generally.
See, and there's so many myths and things that people make up that just aren't true. They're like, oh, you
Tornadoes
live
do
in a
not
valley,
care about hills.
a tornado. You live on a hill, or you live in the mountains, you're not going to see a tornado, and that just doesn't. It's not the case.
I watched one come over a hill in Warren, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Over a hill and right down into a lumber yard and like just blew the thing apart. I mean, wasn't long lived, but
it's a violently spinning column of air. That's what it is. And when it descends to the ground, it doesn't matter if you're on a mountain. It doesn't matter if you're in a valley. If that circulation's strong enough that it can extend down to the ground,
right.
I mean, it's gonna happen. And if
I
you're on a
mean,
mountain, you're even higher in elevation yet. So that just doesn't. It never made sense to me that why people said
even hills can even spark a tornado. Even worse, you think about orthographic lifting and
that.
QCLS thing. Drill
Yeah.
bit tornadoes.
Like terrain enhanced
Yeah,
rotation.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, there's one
I
area
get plenty of that up here.
here in Berks County. That whole portion of northern Berks County by Hamburg I was just talking about, that whole area is notorious for quick spin ups along the mountain.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's
definitely crazy. Like
it is. It really is. Even as a
weather.
storm chaser, it's crazy.
Yeah, weather in Pennsylvania is a whole different animal.
It is a whole other animal. But like that's the thing about Pennsylvania that's so interesting. Being a chaser here, it's very hard to kind of put yourself on the map as a chaser because people are they hear chaser and they think, all right, you live in Oklahoma,
Right. I
Colorado,
get that all the
Texas.
time.
They don't think Pennsylvania. So when you're like, oh yeah, I'm a storm chaser, I'm from Pennsylvania, they're like, oh yeah, what do you see? And you have to tell them, be like, we see a little bit of everything. If you go outside in your backyard on a normal day, you're probably not going to see the worst weather. But if you go and you actually hunt down this stuff, you'll see a little bit of everything in Pennsylvania.
This is what we see as chasers in Pennsylvania. There you go. There's our tornado.
Oh, that's so true. Chasing in Pennsylvania is literally tree, mountain, more trees. I think I see the tornado. 2 seconds later, it's gone. More
Yep.
trees. That's
Yep.
literally how
Oh,
it is.
we got some comments up in here, Justin.
All right, let's see what we have here.
Vince says that Moore had two, and he chased the one on May 3rd in 1999.
Wasn't Moore the one? Or no, it wasn't Moore. Maybe it was Oklahoma City. Wasn't that one of the first ones Reed started on?
The one in OKC. I think he
Yeah,
started
he was
on
still in
OKC.
school. I think it was Oklahoma City.
And I think
That's
he
one
was
where
living in
they
Moore
get
at the
under the
time.
overpass, I think. There's like
Yes.
a famous video of that.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Because he had his what is those things called? What kind of car is that? It's a Chevy. They're real
It's a little
tiny.
thing. The little thing.
Yeah. Is a Geo Tracker.
Oh yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah,
By
I
the way,
believe it was a geo-tracker.
don't hide underneath an overpass if there's a
Yeah,
tornado.
please don't, people.
Since we brought that up, that Reed did that, that was a completely different time. We didn't know better at that point.
Yeah. They found out after that day, I think.
It never fails when you're on the chase and you go through, like, on the highway, everybody's hiding underneath a bridge after your phone just went off for a tornado warning, and you're just like, no, what are you doing?
Or they block the road completely.
Oh, yeah, they just start,
people do not do that, because if it starts raining so hard you can't see and somebody comes under that underpass and you're parked right in the road, bad things are going to happen.
Middle of 81, I-81, and they're just parked in the middle of the road. Nobody else is getting by at all.
Motorcycle, maybe.
Every man for themselves. Let's see what else we got here. I remember that Justin Hamburg. Yeah, Tilden Township. If you live in this area, that is one that will stick a lot of people. It really it wiped out the school. That was something for Pennsylvania here.
Definitely.
Sorry to head towards. So she's Julie is actually touching on something. Lions, the tornado in Lions. That's personally what started my passion with storm chasing and my journey. May 31st, 1998, Lyons, Pennsylvania, Berks County. I live 5 minutes east of there right now. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't even allowed yet. I wasn't even alive yet.
I was like 6 years old. I'll never forget that night. I didn't live directly in Lyons. We lived to the east, but I remember I was very little, 6 years old. Power was out. Storm warnings were coming in. We were watching TV until the power completely went out. And then we had candles lit and we were coloring. And I remember the roar. I remember the roar of the wind that night as the tornado, came through. And the next day is when we finally went that way, and we had to go. We were going towards Reading or something.
Right.
And, I was like, "What happened here?" And basically my aunt was like, "A tornado," and we stopped for a little bit. It was pretty much closed off to everybody. But I remember we kind of drove around real quick and walked around, and there was a boat in the middle of the cornfield. There were just certain things that I'll never forget.
Random things, yeah.
House in the middle of the road. The houses by the train tracks there in Lyons were split open like doll houses. And I remember thinking as a 6-year-old kid, what does this? Like, how? I just wanted to know more. And
right.
That's kind of where it just took off for me. And it kind of, that how and why. And I want to see that, kind of took over. And I was like, I got to learn everything I can about this.
And that's kind of like the same mentality that I had watching the Moore, Oklahoma ordeal. And, and the Kingsley Bridge thing, too. I mean, I remember going out there and there was trees split apart and twisted. I was like you said, with the train tracks, how does this happen? Like, it's just, as a kid, you're like mind blown, like, whoa.
Man, it's the curiosity of it all. Most kids are terrified of this stuff. And I remember just being so, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know, like, how did this happen? I was so curious.
Right.
Thing. And it just led to me going to school, and getting books on it. And
Scholastic Book Fair is my thing, man.
Scholastic Book Fair. And obviously, the Twister movie, and then, later down the line, Storm Chasers came out on TV.
Yep.
And that was on Discovery Channel for people who don't know. And actually, we were talking about the El Reno tornado. The Twistex team was on that show.
Yep.
Before they actually passed away. But, I mean, I can gladly say that I was into weather before the Storm Chaser show. That was something. Logan, I think you're losing your signal here. You're losing your signal, buddy. Let's see. It's starting to really cut out. So Julie's saying straight line winds can obviously be deadly. And I mean, living in Pennsylvania, we're going to see that more so than tornado damage. But straight line wind damage can be more damaging than a tornado because it affects a much larger area. It's something that really catches people off guard. So I'll touch on that a little bit while Logan's trying to fix his stream a little bit here. But yeah, he's up. You're in what, Butler County, buddy? Keene County. Okay. That's all right. I kind of live in the middle of nowhere too.
There we go. We're back.
We're back. You're still losing it, boss. It was good for so long, and now it's breaking up. I'll never forget Sandy. Sandy, did you experience Sandy, Logan, or were you kind of away?
Nope, I experienced Sandy.
What was your experience with Sandy? I'm curious.
Oh gosh. Well, I was still in school at the time. I didn't, that was 11 years ago. I mean, definitely in school still. But I remember the dam in our area because we had that so much rain. Not as bad as previous hurricanes. What was the really bad one that came up through here, through Pennsylvania, a long time ago?
I mean, there's a bunch that were bad in PA. Irene is the big one.
Yeah. Like, I obviously wasn't around yet. I don't think you were you around yet when that came through?
I don't think I was actively storm chasing at that point. I mean, I was into weather, but I wasn't documenting things to the extreme that I do now. Sandy, like I said, I was into weather, but I wasn't documenting it for social media like I do now.
And same here. I was not documenting it. I remember watching it on TV the entire time. I remember watching videos of the New York subway getting flooded completely.
Yeah.
The pews getting smashed down. I remember all that on the Weather Channel. I mean,
and then the famous images after, I think it was the next day, of the roller coaster in the water.
Yeah, the amusement park.
And that's insane.
Turned into a water park.
It did turn into a water park. That's a shame, but I mean, if you think tropical weather in this area, I mean, Sandy's the big one. It really, Sandy and Irene, and then there's a bunch before we were even born.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch. I mean, but like people, like you gotta remember, we're in Pennsylvania, right? So we don't get like directly affected by the main portion of the hurricane. Typically, it hits down coast and then it makes its way up the coastline. What we typically get is the very, very heavy tropical rains, and wind does come with it. Even tornado outbreaks can occur from it. I mean,
see, when things get up here, most times they're transitioning from either a hurricane into a tropical storm, or from a tropical storm into something post-tropical.
Right, tropical depression,
stuff like that. So they're in their weakening phase most often. The waters aren't exactly boiling up here like they are.
Correct. They're boiling very bad down in Florida currently.
Yeah. You want to talk about that, Logan?
Sure. Thanks, Justin.
Put you on the spot. Brought it up.
No. So the water temperatures in Florida currently off the coastline, the west coastline, they're not boiling. That's emphasized, but it's hot tub temperatures. I mean, think about how hot a hot tub is. There's a reason why it's called a hot tub. And the water temperatures off of the west coast of Florida are pushing those temperatures. And
the convection is boiling. You can see it bubbling on satellite.
Correct. You could say that. Blown up like a marshmallow in a microwave.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's what it looks like.
It's Idalia, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, it's a different name, but it seems like these hurricanes with the eyes are really hitting Florida.
It's the eyes. We're just talking about Irene and Ida and all that. Now we have Idalia.
Yeah.
Here we are a few days ago, and it was going to be a tropical storm, no big deal. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the models realized that, like you said, the water is basically boiling down there in the Gulf.
Yeah.
Not truly boiling, but it's pretty hot. And rapid intensification. Here we are every day. Category 1, Category 2. Woke up this morning, forecast to be a Category 3 major hurricane at landfall.
Right.
7 a.m. on Wednesday.
And those models are slowly increasing, going higher and higher in intensification.
But yeah, I mean, rapid intensification right up until landfall. Category 3, it's forecast at the moment at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, and that could even go higher yet. We're talking possible Category 4. Dare I say more? I don't want to say that yet. Hopefully,
the track has shifted a little bit south, a little bit.
It has, but I thought
which makes things even worse.
Somebody brought up Agnes in the comments. That's one of the ones that were before our time.
Yeah, and Gloria. And Gloria, too, was before our time. That was 85.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Let's see here.
Oh, yeah, there was plenty of hurricanes before our time that really messed up Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But, yeah, down in Florida right now, hurricane warnings are in effect. And that's going to continue up the coast along Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and eventually off the coast
right.
sometime Thursday. So, I mean, it's tropical season. Don't let your guard down. Even up here, you don't know what's to come. Not saying this one's going to affect us, but we're certainly not out of the season yet. There's still.
I mean, look at Franklin. It's so close.
We were so close.
Not that we want it to happen.
No.
But
like you said, by the time they get up here, they're most times not really anything major.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's see. Was it 2 years ago now? Hurricane Henri. We chased up in Long Island.
Oh yeah, good old Long Island.
And I mean, that's the first hurricane up this way since probably Sandy, I'd imagine.
And then as it was making landfall up through the coastline in Long Island area, it turned into tropical storm. I remember that.
It was a very high-end tropical storm, but still.
It was on borderline hurricane still. And then it went out to sea after. Didn't it go all the way up into Vermont and then book out east?
I think you're right, because a lot of the chasers were up in Vermont and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And up that way.
They get severe flooding though.
New York City, right?
I was on Long Island.
All right.
Midpoint Long Island. I wasn't all the way at the end of it.
Yeah, Dennis Mancher, DJM News Media out of Harrisburg, and then my good friend Sean Lycap, another LSM chaser from Pottstown. We went out towards Montauk on the very tip.
Yeah, we were heading out that way with Mike Nestor. I was out with Mike Nestor.
So. That was a good time. I'll tell you what. Mike Nestor, I think he's still watching in here somewhere.
I think he's still on here.
You chased that whole thing pretty much with Mike, didn't you?
Yeah, just about. We were at Coney Island, and then we went east on Long Island for a little while.
I was really hoping you guys would make it out to us that day.
I know. The flooding, though, was so bad on Long Island.
Coming through New York City, even on the way back.
Oh, it was horrible.
Going to and coming back was terrible.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad.
And Mike says what?
We're talking about the chasing Hurricane Henri with Logan there, Mike. For those who don't know in the comments, MVP Video Services is Mike Nestor, a very good friend and fellow storm chaser. And he was chasing with Logan that day. But, I mean, the thing with going through New York City when something like that's happening is you're stuck on highways where if there's flooding, there's nowhere to go. It's either stop completely and hold up traffic or go through it and just chance it. And it's a situation you don't want to be in, especially as a chaser and somebody who knows better. And that's the thing difficult about getting through that area during the hurricane.
I went through a few puddles. They weren't, the road wasn't covered, but it was definitely starting to pond up along the barriers. The trash doesn't help either, sad.
Oh, it clogs up all the drains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good one though. I'd say that was probably one of the better ones since Sandy. As a chaser, from my perspective, anyway.
Right.
And I don't think Pennsylvania saw too much of that, but out in Long Island, I mean, we really got some good stuff.
It was windy where me and Mike were.
Oh, I know.
We walked out on the beach.
You were under the hurricane warning, weren't you?
Yeah, for a little bit, I believe, and then it dropped over to a tropical.
I mean, the good thing about that was storm surge was pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, I mean there wasn't much.
No, there really wasn't much at all.
It was creeping up the beach.
Yeah.
But it didn't make it the whole way inland. I mean, I remember like me and Mike pulled into a parking lot at like a beach entrance, and all the businesses had sandbags lined up along their like doors, like the boardwalk doors almost.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I'm trying to think. Hurricane Isaias, if I'm saying it correctly. I chased that down in Ocean City, Maryland, and I tell you what, that was a wild chase, tropical wise. That thing produced so many tornadoes, including a very long track tornado through the state of Delaware.
Yep.
And
which I pass by it anytime I go down that way.
Route 1, I mean, the whole like right hand side, if you're heading south, is just wiped out. The trees they look like tornado trees, as we call it, as chasers.
Yep.
And they're completely. Here we are years after the fact, and they just look terrible.
Yep. But, that's how it is in the area just south of my town. There was a tornado a long time ago. And
when I was, obviously when I was going down there to chase Isaias, I mean, I caught a tornado just outside of Ocean City, Maryland. You could barely see it, but it quick spun up, crossed the road, right outside of Ocean City, Maryland, went across the golf course there. And then there was another one directly behind me, which I couldn't see. Found out about that after the fact. And then as I was heading home on Route 1, that's when I saw the tornado damage. And I was like, what the heck? I just happened to stumble across it. I took the exit. And then I ended up covering that for the Weather Channel. But I'll tell you what, that was luck. Literally as I'm going north heading home, and I'm like, what happened here? I think I know. But, I mean, that was another good storm,
Right. I mean, that was like my instance there in Indiana, down in Sullivan. I mean, it was the same way. I was north of there, and all of a sudden, this just magical cell pops up, and it starts producing a long track tornado, and I'm booking south to get to it. And I mean, like I said, I covered that for the Weather Channel, though, too. I covered that damage for them.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
That was cool.
Yeah, Logan, you've been LSM now for, probably a year now, right?
Since December.
That's right, because it was Buffalo.
The Buffalo Blizzard.
Logan was up in Buffalo chasing the Reed Timmer. That's what he was doing.
Yep.
That's when he got his big break.
Watching Reed freeze his eyeballs.
Yeah. That's when Logan got his big break. That was a good one.
Yep. Yeah, that was a long 3 days.
You look like the guy out of, what is it?
Day After Tomorrow.
Day After Tomorrow.
I cannot tell you how many people said that. Even the dude from CNN told me that, because they were with me in the lobby.
Yeah.
They were actually going to film me a live bit but I had the LSM stuff going on in the background, so I was like, well, I can't really do that yet because I don't know, and I don't want to ruin anything either.
Yeah. I'm better behind the camera than in the camera. I mean,
it's tough. It's tough.
Fair,
If everybody watching wants a challenge, put your phone in front of you and try telling a story. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Like even narrating our videos, which we've done, we were talking about this today. I mean, even narrating the videos is a little bit rough sometimes.
That you got to type a script if you're,
you gotta time it out.
Yeah. If you're down 5 takes without a script and you're down with like no good words, you're like, time to write a script.
Yeah, I think that's what I struggle with. I'll go and I'll record my stuff, and I don't really write a script. I just kind of have it up here, and I'm like, la, 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 and it's like it cuts me off, and I'm like, I still have a paragraph to go yet, Like,
or you get really close to the end and you mess it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad words said when that happens.
Yeah, I've had my fair share.
Yeah.
But anywho, back to the hurricane situation, especially Florida. I mean, that is a big topic right now, all over. I mean, it's definitely a situation if you're especially in Florida, if you're watching from Florida, take it seriously. Like the governor said of Florida, you do not have to run 100 miles away. Don't drive all the way up to Georgia if you don't want to. You don't have to do that. Tens of miles. You can do tens of miles. So, if you want to go to Central Florida, go to Central Florida, but do not stay on the coastline, especially in the Big Bend area. If you are in the Big Bend area, do not stay. Please, we beg you to not stay. Go to a shelter, somewhere safe. Go to a higher ground. Just do not stay on the coastline. These storm surges, especially in Big Bend area where the track is almost centered.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at 11 right there. You're looking at 11 feet, 11-foot storm surge possible, if not higher. I mean, that's going to push. I mean, look where the track is, right over Big Bend. I mean, that's not good.
Yeah, I personally never chased in that area of Florida, but from everybody I've talked to that has, they said that. And Sean, I was talking to Sean Lightcap about this today. He was telling me that that whole area is low lying. That
A
storm
very,
center, it's just going to go through there and just wipe things out.
yep.
And I don't know if you saw what Brett Adair was saying last night. He was saying that even if you're, raised up in a structure and this thing goes Cat 4 and it's got a 20-foot surge, I mean, it's going to wipe everything out in its path.
Yeah, it could potentially take it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got to think about that. I mean, you just, and there's a lot of new chasers going down there. I mean, I have not experienced a Category 4 hurricane. I want to, but I kind of want to get a couple more storms on the East Coast before I go down. I mean, I wanted to go down this week, but sadly, work vacation didn't really work out. But if you do not know what you're doing, don't go down. I mean, we've had our, couple hurricane tropical storm ordeals up here, but I mean, that's a whole different world down there. I mean, you're looking at what, 2 foot sea level, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, a Category 3 and 4 storm is a whole different animal. And you don't want to rush into something and put yourself in a bad situation.
Right.
And as chasers, we should know better, and, we should be telling the public, hey, you got to get out. You got to take this seriously.
Yep.
Obviously, Florida is a different animal than up here. Up here, people don't know what storm surge is.
No.
For the most part, just like with the same problem with watches and warnings, people still don't understand those. I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, "Oh, we're under a tornado warning," and it's a tornado.
Oh,
And
last week.
yeah,
Last week for me.
yeah. I get comments on my Facebook page all the time. People are like, "Oh, we're in a tornado warning," and it's just a tornado watch. But I mean, storm surge. People don't understand how that works. They don't know what to expect. They don't know where the danger zones are. I mean, half the time people don't even realize how far above sea level they are.
Yeah, exactly. And how far inland that surge can actually push in. I mean, it's crazy how far it can actually push in. I mean, I was on Lake Erie. Now, this obviously is not a hurricane or a tropical system, but I don't know if you remember this, Justin, from a year and a half ago. We were up in Dunkirk in Sunset Bay, and we had quote-unquote storm surge that pushed inland. And actually, I mean, it came in probably about a mile to a mile and a half inland off of Lake Erie. I mean, this is Lake Erie we're talking about.
Yep.
And I mean, it completely buried houses with sand. I mean, there was destruction because, I mean, it's storm surge basically. And that was the mess. And, that took everybody by surprise. And that's just on a small scale. You're talking about a little bay.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to an ocean with a whole coastline affected with just storm surge. It's crazy how and it can push up through rivers, it can push up through bayous, and come right up into other towns that are maybe way far inland, but they'll still get storm surge from those bays overflowing.
And not just that. I mean, when you're talking a tropical system, you're talking a ton of precipitation falling, and then you have the surge on top of that.
Yep,
So
and debris covering those drains, or the surge pushing in, blocking those drains. That don't help either.
There's plenty of threats to go around to life and property, unfortunately, during a tropical system, and many threats people just don't realize until it's too late. I mean, they talk about putting your hurricane action plans into place and being prepared, and a lot of people they wait until the last second when the forecast is absolutely doom, and they're saying, "Hey, a Category 4 storm is coming right now." it's strengthened, and they're not prepared. And they
Right.
can't get out. Roads
Nope.
are shut down at that point. You're blocked. Things are already starting to flood. Because even before the worst winds and surge gets there, it's already going to be raining for hours, likely.
Yeah, you get those feeder bands coming in. I mean, those dump constantly.
And they're no joke either.
No, they can produce tornadoes too. And that's what drives a lot of the water inland is those feeder bands. They push so much water with the winds that they carry. It's just crazy to think about how it works. Hurricanes are very sophisticated animals.
For people who live in Pennsylvania, just think about, if we get a good 60-mile-per-hour thunderstorm rushing through this area, how many trees and power lines come down? And then you're talking, 70, 80-mile-per-hour winds sustained for hours at a time, just beating down on that infrastructure.
If not more.
You're really blocking your routes out of there. That's really what it is. It's pounding everything to the max.
And they have big palm trees too. Not little palm trees. Not talking big, tall pine trees or palm trees. I'm thinking of up here, pine trees.
Yeah, like we were talking about straight line winds. Somebody touched on that in the comments. And, like we said, straight line winds can be just as bad as a tornado.
Oh, yeah. There's so much damage in PA that is, they're like, oh, tornado happened. But you got to remember, straight line winds are really close damage-wise to tornadic winds. There's a couple different factors.
A tornado is so much more of a narrow path, especially in Pennsylvania. You get one house hit, it skips another, one house hit, and then it lifts. They're usually often brief, and then that's it. Straight line winds affects a very large area. You're talking a county, sometimes multiple counties.
Right.
Worst events, a whole eastern half of the state sometimes, or depending on where it is. And you're talking a hurricane, hours and hours of nothing but the worst of a severe thunderstorm you can imagine.
Right.
Continuously. And then you just think about how much damage there's going to be from that kind of wind. It's getting down on you.
Think about some of our bad. Right. Think about some of our bad derecho events that we've had just here in Pennsylvania. Yep. Think about that, folks. Think about a derecho event that you can remember and times that by 6 and just imagine it going on for sometimes 2 days. Think about that. Just that derecho event going on for a day, 2 days. So it's crazy to think about. And you get that break. I've personally heard people talk about the eye wall coming over and then them thinking that it's done. And they start trying to clean up their house and all of a sudden that eye wall hits.
Yep.
It's a whole nother situation. Once that eye wall hits, it's done.
Obviously our biggest hazard in Pennsylvania is obviously it's always going to be the straight line winds. We don't see a lot of tropical systems, but when we do, our biggest hazard is normally not the wind. With Sandy, it was, but flooding is going to absolutely be our issue.
Right.
Pennsylvania floods so badly. And sometimes even on normal events, and then you add in a tropical system, and it's a bad time, very bad time.
For sure. Up in our area, we do get flooding a lot. Not as severe as you guys do down there. We have our streams and tributaries and rivers that do overflow time to time. We do have the Kinzu Reservoir. When Sandy came through, the Kinzu Dam was very close to having to open up their floodgates. Because of how high the water truly got. I remember looking at it. It was all brown. It looked like chocolate milk. The reservoir did.
Whew. And that's the thing with Pennsylvania, too. We have so much aging infrastructure, whether it's the bridges that get taken out in floods,
right,
or the dams that are already, there's many dams out there that are very close to failure on a normal day.
And look at Laureldale.
Once in 100-year events that come through. And
right. Look at Martin's Creek just recently.
Martin's Creek was pretty bad. I'm going to be
honest. That was messed up.
I know we covered the Berks County flooding together. You were out in Laureldale. Yep. I couldn't get on that side, and that was pretty bad. But I think Martin's Creek was probably a little worse, in my opinion.
I'd say damage-wise, Martin Creek Yeah,
But as
Martin's
far
Creek.
as like the human impact, obviously the Berks County flood this year was really, really, really bad.
Correct. I mean, even on my live streams, I was showing cars that were just, I mean, they weren't being swept away. They were previously swept. But I mean,
I
the
don't know how
water
you
was.
got there. I still don't understand how you got there. I was trying to get over there so bad, and I just
See, and
couldn't.
I couldn't get over to where you were for a while.
Yeah, we were completely
So,
separate halves there.
yeah, the roads were messed up.
Yeah, even when we got to where that guy was swept away out in, I think it was Blandon, Maiden Creek.
Yeah. Yep, it was
You,
blended.
you were on the other side of the bridge, and I still couldn't get over there. You know, we were.
Yeah, I came down the hillside. You came up the hillside.
But I mean, that day was. I mean,
That was a long day for me.
that was a long day, but that was a bad day for many, many, many people in the county.
Right.
We certainly haven't seen a flood of that magnitude in quite a long time.
Right. I think the closest thing that I had flooding wise down that way in the recent 3 to 4 years was uh, was Strasburg up north
Okay.
off I-80.
Yeah.
That was bad. I mean, that was really bad. And that's when I was actually coming home from New Jersey, Mullica Hill, when they had their bad tornado come through there. And I just so happened to be coming up there from disaster response, because I do disaster relief work. And I was coming up and I was like, that doesn't look right.
So let me take this moment to explain to everybody. Logan is not just a good, storm chaser, but he's also the kindest guy you could possibly ever.
Try to be, at least.
And he does a lot of disaster relief for people. When the Mullica Hill, New Jersey tornado happened, which was a significant tornado, it was what, a 3?
Yeah, and it was a
EF3.
wedge.
And it was a wedge tornado. Logan drove all the way from northwestern Pennsylvania out to New Jersey just to deliver supplies.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you really want to follow somebody that has a kind heart, the link is in the description to his channel. Give him a follow, give him a like, and check out what he does, because he's
Well, I
really big
appreciate that, Justin.
relief.
I
You
appreciate
said
that.
you wanted to do a relief trailer at one point.
I did. I wanted to do a relief trailer. The organization stuff, the paperwork is actually sitting right over here. It's filled out. It's ready to go. I just haven't, maybe this winter time. But running a disaster relief organization is a whole nother challenge. I mean, it's very difficult, even to get accepted. You gotta prove that you're gonna do it. You gotta prove where you're gonna get your funds from. Um, Luckily, I run with the American Red Cross disaster response team. So we're going to be on calls for the Hawaii situation that's going on throughout the day to intake families that were affected, get them the help they need. But with the American Red Cross, it's nice. If I start up a disaster response organization, the American Red Cross will actually help you if you submit your organizational information to them.
Yep.
They'll actually give you stuff, which is really cool. I mean, I don't know how much they'll give you, but they're there to support any organization there. So that's awesome, and don't be afraid to get a hold of American Red Cross either. I mean, they're a very great organization, including Salvation Army. I can't let them out either. They're very good at both. Both organizations are great at disaster response. So.
We have a lady in the comments that just said she's from the Mullica Hill area.
Oh yeah. I'm well aware of Mullica Hill now. Now that I was down there, I drove around for most of the day in a Tahoe. It was a long day, and I had to work the next day.
I had never heard of Mullica Hill before. I don't really get to New Jersey a whole lot, but I will say that unfortunate event certainly put them on the map. And even people who don't live in this area, they knew about Mullica Hill. We talked to Timmer when we went to the Storm Chasers convention in Indiana, and Reed Timmer we had a nice conversation. We went out to dinner and all that, and he said that Mullica Hill, obviously you said it was a wedge tornado, it should have been an EF4 tornado. It was rated EF3, but even Reed Timmer told us flat out it should have been a 4. So you have people that don't even live here, and Mullica Hill was on the map for them.
Yep.
So that just goes to show bad tornadoes do happen in this area. That same day, wasn't it Ben Salem happened that same day as well?
I believe so.
And that was
And they also had major flooding as well down that way. I remember that occurring too because I covered both. I did Mullica Hill response, disaster response. I came back into Pennsylvania and took care of flood victims. I don't remember what town it was, but that was the same day, and the whole apartment complex was flooded.
I always tell you, and I'll tell you right here.
It was Strasbourg. It was Strasbourg. That's what it was. Sorry, it was Strasbourg.
I think it's great that you always help people out. You have the kindest heart of anybody that I know in my entire life, and just keep on doing what you're doing with that. That's
well,
awesome.
I appreciate that.
No problem, buddy. All right, I think we're gonna wrap this.
Justin a follow too.
Let's see what the comments are real quick. I was gonna wrap.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for us before we end the chat? Before we end this? Yeah. Let's answer.
We're gonna do this again. Logan and I were talking about this. We're gonna do this again.
We want to try to make this a regular ordeal.
We want to try to upgrade this too, so we can show you graphics on screen.
Yep.
So we're gonna put our heads together and try to do that. But if you have any, questions or anything in that, put that in the comments here, and we'll try to answer that quick before we sign off.
Even then, even when there's times that we can't, storm chase, maybe we can do live coverage for people. I mean, I think the people would appreciate that a lot. Do you like
Storm Chaser Eli Roberts, another good friend of ours? Check his page out on YouTube, Storm Chaser Eli Roberts. He said, "Do you guys like warm hugs?"
During that blizzard, I really enjoyed my warm hug.
Eli is another storm chaser that I personally talk to every single day. We're all really close friends. We talk every day in a chat group. Check his
He's
stuff
a fellow
out.
LSM.
Yep, he is also an LSM guy, and he will be on here eventually. I already extended an invite to him, so we will have Eli on the program eventually.
Yes, I do have my own site. You can find it by typing in PAWX Chaser, either YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or X now.
I don't know what to call
get started on that.
X, I just don't know.
What's Twitter? I don't know that.
Julia follows Eli already. There you go.
Awesome.
I'm old, so take it slow. Oh boy. My daughter told me earlier that apparently Eli is bald. She was like, "Is that bald Storm Chaser going to be on there?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "You mean Sean?" And she's like, "No, I think his name's Eli." And I said, "What?"
I actually helped Eli a week before the blizzard up in Buffalo area. Harbor Freight came in the win for that. I'll tell you that.
You gotta get them a sponsor. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I've been pushing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, boss. We're gonna wrap it up here. We're hitting almost an hour, and then this again. We should do this. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like twice a month or something? Every 2 weeks or something?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe we can start a poll and see what people say.
All right. Very good.
I think that'd be a good idea.
All right, Logan. Well, thanks for hopping on and chatting with us. Like I said,
thank you for allowing me to join, Justin. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. We do appreciate it as much as we can. And, make sure you hit the follow button for Mr. Justin and Eli as well. I mean, don't forget about Eli. You can't forget about Eli.
Got to plug your socials one more time.
All right. If you want to follow me on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or X, as some people call it now, PAWX Chaser is my social handle. All one word. PAWX Chaser. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, Justin, once again.
Got it, buddy. Have a good night.
Have a great night, guys. Stay safe.